All right, beloveds. Let's see if this works. Hmm. I don't know. Can you hear me? Don't- I don't know. I think you can maybe see me. Let me try to see on Substack myself. Ah, yes. Okay, great. Great, great, great. Hey, thank you, Liv. Awesome. Well, this is not a normal studio setup for your girl because I'm at I'm at the Ritz-Carlton in Sintra. I live on the Lisbon coast of Portugal. Thank you, dear. Thank you, querida. I live on the Lisbon coast of Portugal. Our children, we all move here because we want a slower life with our kids, and then we come here and realize that what that means is there's a lot of school breaks. There are a lot of school breaks. So my kid is on spring break this week and last week, and the only camp I could find for her this week that she was willing to do was an art camp really close here to the Ritz Carlton in Sintra. So I just decided I had such a wild and wonderful weekend. A weekend full of revelations and weekend full of revolution, and I just decided it's time to kind of come back into the world a little bit. It's time to do what I came to do. And that is, my mission in life and in my life's work has been for years to come against the number, to dismantle, to systematically, methodically dissolve and dismantle the number one most oppressive force of genius and of genius women on the planet, which is internalized repression. Internalized repression. And so I've done that in many, many ways in the past. We're gonna do that in many new, beautiful ways in the future because I'm really convinced that y'all and me, especially if you identify as eldest daughter, as, first generation anything, immigrant kid, first generation fancy black lady, right? Who identify as neuro-complex or neurodivergent. I don't personally use the word neurodivergent because I think it centers the typical and because I have never wanted to be typical at anything in my entire damn life, ever, ever. So I think the idea of neurodivergent being, the thing that's supposed to be othered is somewhat absurd. Um And in this season, I prefer neurocomplex because it can be challenging to try to live and operate and be the way you've been taught you are supposed to be in this 3D neuro-normie world. When, like, my friend Jean said to me so many years ago, she just took me aside and she said, "Terry, you're not a normie. Like, you're not a normie. You're never gonna be a normie. So you can, like, I hereby release you from bondage to the curse of trying to be a normie because it doesn't even benefit anyone for you to try to shrink and contort and conform and perform and produce and please yourself into that, all right? So, I'm not gonna go into the entire long, journey that I've been on. I am gonna be publishing much, 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 much more about this on Substack. I think I'm gonna invite you guys to join me own unmasking journeys as I am in the process of unmasking. To do that, being and doing and evolving and shedding and becoming and unfurling and thinking, to do that process on your own Substacks. So, I am relatively new to Substack, but I am very, very OG to email. All right. I used to run, about a 15, 20 million email list, follower, subscriber email list in one of my day jobs. And one of my last day job, which was 11 years ago, guys, my last day job, I grew an email list from 45 million to 120 million customers, and we sent emails like 5 times a day. So That was when I was the chief marketing officer at MyFitnessPal, up until the time we were acquired, for about almost a $500 million. So I am here because I wanna talk to you really specifically, those of you who do self-identify as neurocomplex, whether you are on the autism spectrum, whether you are on the ADHD spectrum, or as we say in Portugal, PH de A, um, whether you are diagnosed, whether you are self-identified, whether you are simply gifted, and I wanna say this as, like, a specific shout out, that giftedness is neurodivergence too. Somebody needs to hear me say that today. Giftedness is neuro, quote, unquote, "divergence," or in the word I would prefer to use, which I get from Lindsay Mack, who's another Substacker here, neurocomplex. Giftedness is neurocomplex too. If you were a gifted child, they treated you the same way they treated the other kids. They sent you to a special class somewhere, and they still do. Giftedness has a lot of the same manifestations in adults and in children as autism does, as ADHD does. And there's a fourth sort of neurocomplex diagnosis that is PTSD, or complex PTSD. So if you're ever interested in reading about neurocomplexity, Lindsay Mack here on Substack has done some really powerful and masterful breakdowns diagrammatically, if you're into the system kind of framework thinking, of the overlap between ASD, ADHD, PTSD, and giftedness. And it's worth it. It's worth a look. It's really worth a look. Because I think some of us are not allowing ourselves to identify this way because we're still thinking about that diagnostic or disordered model, and that model is entirely fucking wrong, right? So we're gonna talk a lot about that, and that's why I am naming this new Substack the A List, because it's for women over 40 who self-identify, diagnosed or not, as ASD, ADHD, or just were gifted, grown up A students, giftedness. If you identify as any of those things and you're really tired of that feeling of knowing you have a Ferrari brain, uh, to use Dr. Hollowell's frame, he says ADHD is like having a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes. But I would say it's almost like knowing you have a Ferrari brain with, you know, kind of heavy brakes, kind of heavy gas pedal. It's hard to start, it's hard to finish. You've got kind of like shopping cart steering. Can't always point that Ferrari brain at what you want to easily. And maybe you've yeah, I was steering, it was steering, it was the brakes, it was the gas pedal, and the ignition can be hard, but once you turn that Ferrari brain on, it's a Ferrari brain. It's still a Ferrari engine. Maybe it's more of a Ferrari engine than the normies with so-called Ferrari brains. And my submission or my argument or my observation is that so many in the world of neurodivergence, neurocomplexity, want to talk about the faulty brakes or the fucked up steering or how hard it is to turn the ignition on or how hard it is to press that gas pedal. But what they don't seem to it's like they're not talking about the Ferrari brain. And I want us to talk about the Ferrari brain because I don't think it's just brain. I think it's brain. I think it's mind. I think it's soul. I think it's spirit. All right. And I also know, I test drove a Porsche once. I really went out and was like, I love the Panamera. I'm just gonna drive it and see if I want this car." And I got in this car, and the salesman was next to me. We got on the freeway, and I, drove like 80 miles an hour, and he was just like, "Pull over, ma'am. If this is all you're gonna do, please pull over." He was like, "May I?" I'm like, "Sure, go for it." And he got in the driver's seat, and he's like 120 miles an hour on the freeway, and I was like, "Oh, I see. This car can't even operate properly if you're not driving it at the level it's supposed to be driven." And I think that's what's happening with a lot of our A-list neurocomplex brains. Perimenopause brain, same thing. Mom brain, fragmented attention, all right? Is that we have been conditioned to be a good little cog and use our genius for somebody else's machine. and they've done a very good job at providing a structure and a lane in which we can do that, that we're kind of in that, doing that, and then when we try to go out and start our own business or do our own thing or write our own, fire, it's hard because all of that structure has been pulled out from under us, right? And we don't really know how to work our big, beautiful, wild, untamed brain, mind, soul, spirit, because it's been conditioned in us also to feel unsafe when it's time to let it rip. At 120 miles an hour on the freeway feels like the cops might come get you, right? Something bad could happen. You could get in an accident, and it's the same with our brains, right? That's why I think we should just all agree to this. Can we all agree that you don't struggle with consistency when you are sharing your absolutely most unhinged, wildest stories, most radical takes on the world with your besties in a voice memo or via DM? You don't struggle with consistency. You can send her all the memes in the world. You can send her DM after DM after DM after DM. And the reason you don't struggle with that, the reason you can do that all the time, all day, every day, kinda like it's your full-time job, even though it's not your full-time job, you don't struggle with consistency when you do that because you're not trying to optimize that content for anything. You're not trying to you make anybody else do anything. You're not trying to manipulate anybody else to do anything. You're not trying to be perfect superwoman, coach lady that gets people to buy stuff by making them think that she's a better human than them. You're not trying to do that when you're sending DMs to your friends. So, all you're doing is optimizing for self-expression, for sharing your real experience, your real stories, your real takes, for getting it out, and when you do that, your friends are like, "Damn, people should listen to this. People should listen to us, like, you have these, like, amazing insights." People tell you that all the time, I know that. Like, I know who's here. People tell you that stuff all the time, right? But that's why it feels effortless. It doesn't feel like less effort than work. It feels effortless. That feels like something you could do all day, every day. And I say that you should. I say that you absolutely should. That if you are in business for yourself, the things that the offers, products, and marketing and content creation, your business is rooted in, grounded in, built to profit from, should absolutely feel like you leaving a voice memo to your bestie, you sending a DM to your homegirl, being like, "Oh my god, I went to this," my voice memos to my besties this weekend. Went to the monastery this weekend, did a meditation on Friday, felt really great, except like, damn, I came out and we were talking about Richard Dotts, who we love, and Richard Rudd, who we love, and I was thinking about all the monks in the monastery, and I was like, "It's just so many dicks. It's so many dicks. Where is the goddess perspective here?" I can tell that story. I wanna tell the story about Net. I wanna tell the story of about Net, the Egyptian, the pre-patriarchal goddess story. Now they'll let us tell you the story about Artemis, like the new NASA ship, right? Because the post-patriarchal goddess stories are all kinda tamed and lined up to say what the patriarchy wants them to say. I want you to hear the pre-patriarchal goddess stories of Yemaya, the first mermaid, goddess of the ocean, protectrix of children. They don't want to tell the story about Net, who destroyed the planet every night so she can build it back together, giving us a model for how the goddess creates. They wanna tell sure, they can tell the Jesus story and the Easter story, and that's beautiful. He died, 3 days later, he is risen, but nobody's saying that thousands of years before Christ was the story of Inanna, who also had that same descent, died rotted on a meat hook for 3 days, and then what rose, giving us women a model for what happens at midlife when all of the things that used to make you feel powerful fall away and you feel like you're hanging on a meat hook, right? You don't know how to operate your brain anymore because your estrogen declined and took every last fuck you had to give with it. This I say from experience, right? And then what's the model for us then? Nobody even wants to tell. We don't even know where that part of the Ascent story is, right? I say it's time for us to create that story, and we're only gonna create it by I'm not gonna call it, like, dickless spirituality, but I will say we're only gonna create it by stepping into our part of the goddess story, alright? Now the and by doing what feels natural to us to do, what feels like something we just can roll out of bed and do. That's what you're gifted to do, and that absolutely, if you are a neurocomplex woman, if you are gifted, ASD, ADHD, PTSD, any of them, A's or G's, if you are a gifted woman, I will tell you 100% that you have interests, the kind that give birth to those hyper-focused rabbit holes. You have interests, and you have insights, those dots that you connect, like dots that you connect that years later, everybody else don't you always feel like you're ahead of the game? Don't you always feel like you're creating the thing before everybody else? Years before everybody else? So you're already bored and over it before they even start paying attention, and then it seems like everybody starts to do and say what you start to do and say. Do you know how many times I've gotten emails and texts from people asking, "Did you know the United States was gonna go in this direction? Is that why you left?" Do you know how many times I have said, "Did you not know? How did you not know?" Sometimes the reason that those of us on the A list are not monetizing our truest gift is that it just feels like breathing to us. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel hard enough to be something somebody can pay us for. But the reality is the insight level that your hyper-focused interest topics evoke out of you, those things absolutely can be packaged into not just business assets. Yes, business assets that will pay you so you can rest, but also bodies of work, bodies of writing, bodies of creating. I'm talking Audre Lorde writing. I'm talking, Octavia Butler writing. I'm talking Shirley Horn creating art. This is in the lineage of the goddess to create. This is in your lineage to create, okay? Now, the other thing I know about if you're on the A list, I can tell you that you also probably if you are especially if you are, like, gifted and on the A list, meaning you had these neuro complexities and you somehow figured out how to do really well in school anyway, you've probably grew up your entire life wearing this mask, of we can call it messy perfectionism. We can call it duck syndrome, where you're like, you seem like you're smooth sailing in superwoman heroics on the top, but you're paddling like fuck under the surface because shit is hard, right? Um, just acting like you don't see what you see is hard. And I know that's a word for someone because that's a word for me, right? So if you grew up your entire life wearing this mask of messy perfectionism or duck syndrome or, spiky skill set where you're really great at some things, but you haven't filed your taxes in 4 years, or you can write a book in 3 weeks, but there's some stuff you've been meaning to do for like a couple decades that you haven't gotten around to, you know? If you are if you identify with those kinds of things, we call it the Schrodinger's ADHD woman, right? Where that paradox of feeling of just, you feel that there's this massive potential gap between where you are and where you are in life and what you have potential to be and do in life. But then when you go try to talk to a doctor or coach about it, the business bro coaches just tell you to work on your mindset and then give you this, mass of 49 modules of some shit to build that you don't even really want to build because it would really create a business you hate. Let's just be real. So you don't build that. Um, or you go see the doctors or you talk to your friends about it and everybody's like, "What are you talking about?" People have said that to me. "What are you talking about? You can have ADHD, like, look at your life." And I'm like, "Yeah, look at my life. My life is freaking great." But it's not for nothing, and it was hard, right? For, like, 50 years of hard. 50 years of hard, 50 years of not having all of the pieces put in place. And then once I got diagnosed with ADHD, realizing, "Oh, I see. Once I read all those books that told you what you should do, the reason that businesses went so well up to then was I had figured those things out and put them together in the form of my own spiritual and work rituals. Work is spiritual to me. So it turned out I had, like, figured out a lot of the right ADH quote, unquote, "ADHD hacks," but in a much more meaningful and interesting way, right? So, if you're this woman, this Schrodinger's ADHD woman, and you were Schrodinger's ADHD A student girl, you're used to things feeling hard. You're used to money, success, things you were rewarded for feeling coming to you through hard mode, right? You're used to feeling like you had to put this mask on of polish and perfectionism and people pleasing and performing and conforming and producing and getting it just right before you're allowed to say anything. So that's the other reason why when you're talking with your homegirl, I can send Keisha, Megan, Jen Whitman, Jen Davis Flynn. I can send them I could send each of them 3 voice memos a day, all day, every damn day, and it would, like, not feel like I had done it, right? I would not feel any more depleted. But when it comes time for you to create content or build your brand, that feels really hard and heavy really fast because you're putting on this need for it to be perfect, for you to produce. You're making yourself have to script it and outline it and optimize it and make sure you have the call to action right. All that shit. The cost of the mask is your life force energy. You can do it all day, every day in your day job. Do it all day, every day in your relationship. Some of y'all know you got men in your life who you are holding yourself back from saying what you really think with. You can't carry everything you carry for your kids and then try to start a business and be trying to create content that requires you to wear the mask too. You can't do it. It's too heavy. It's too hard. It costs you too much. Life force energy. And so you may be able to power through and force yourself to do it for a minute, but it'll usually just be for a minute. And part of the reason it'll only be for a minute is because you won't get good results to it, and part of that reason the reason you won't get good results from that kind of content that you force yourself to polish and perfect and create is that it's boring as fuck. It's like beige content. It's like AI content, but worse because you're too smart to really rely entirely on AI. You're addicted to do you, like I was, might be addicted to doing things the hardest fucking possible way. Okay? So when you're spending all of your time thinking about how is this gonna land for that person, is it gonna get them to do what I need them to do? Is it gonna seem cringy? Is my mom gonna see it or my friends gonna see it and be like, "Oh my gosh, girl, what are you doing?" You are not doing what you're doing with your friends and in your voice memos and your DMs, which is just like transmitting what's trying to come through as a relaxed conduit. Right? With your voice memos to your friends, you're just, like, letting flow the insights that naturally flow to you. You're just letting them flow to you and through you. And I want your writing to feel like that. I want your personal growth to feel like that. I want your journals to feel like that. I want your business to feel like that. If I am actually for my clients, I've implemented a no prep rule. If you have to prep a lot to do what you need to do as a core fulfillment function in your business, then it's not a self-centered business. Not what I'm gonna start calling a self-centered business. It will be hard for you, it will be exhausting for you, and it will not be magnetic, and that ain't what we're here for in this season. It's not what we came for. I am going to, over the coming weeks, lay out my case that you are a fractal of the pre-patriarchal goddess returning to her throne. That is a revolution in the cosmos, in this universe, on this planet, and it will start in here, in you. It will start in deep in your chest, and it only begins with the cracking and the dissolving and the burning of the mask. Unmasking is where it starts. Unmasking who you really are is where you begin to relax and open that inner pipeline and let out what's trying to come out. Let the transmissions come through. You feel that I know you feel that the timelines right now are collapsing rapidly. Everything is accelerating. We all feel it. We're all experiencing it. Okay. My mask is off. straight up. I didn't This is not a scripted this is not scripted. Did I have things in mind I wanted to talk to you about? Yes. I had 50 stories I wanted to tell you. I told you maybe a couple, right? So, what I think my job is to do in this season, whether you are neurocomplex or not, whether you know it or not, you know you're gifted, so that means you're neurocomplex for me, right? If you wanna have a business or not, but you probably do. Neurocomplex people are 300% more likely to be entrepreneurs than neuronormies or typicals, as I call them. My job in this season is for us to have this moment of taking the mask off, for me to transmit, allow through me to you the energies that ennoble who you are, remind you who you are, queen, goddess, warrior, lover, right? Remind you who you are, remind you and it reintroduce you to the constellation of beautiful parts within you, that life force energy, that intelligence, deep universal intelligence, right? That limitless reservoir of love. Your actual lived experience, your business and professional expertise, your stories, all of those parts need to be allowed to come back online, come back together. They've been remembered. We're going to remember them and allow the ones that need to come through to be transmitted. All right. And if you can do that with some intention, even some strategy at some point, not yet. I say at the very beginning of whatever this journey is for you, unmask, put the audience last. All right. We're not doing this for them yet. All right. Um, but when you do this with some strategy and some clarity and some intentionality and some maturity about what the most self-valuing way you can be to and with and vis-a-vis you is, things will shift. Brands will be built, platforms will be built, audiences will become assets, businesses will become built. But also what you will create is a revolution within you and the beginnings of a body of work, a body of creation that can allow you to turn your engines off and to rest while your body of work goes out into the world and does the impact and creates the income that allows you to thrive. Okay. So I am not sure exactly what this is going to look like, but I know it'll be happening on Substack. So maybe what we'll do is like an OG writing challenge. Some of you guys have been doing this with me for literally since like 2015 or 2016. Maybe we'll do an OG writing challenge, but we'll bring it to Substack. And I'll actually help you put your Substack together. I'll let you look over yes, I'll let you look over my shoulder as I put mine together, knowing what I know about email and content and transformation strategy, and also being who I be in the season, which is fully mask off. So, yes, I'm pretty sure that this revolution starts within you, and then it will not be televised, but it will be Substacked. And I think I'm just going to issue you guys an invitation to do this with me together. Let me just take a look at yes, 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 yes. Okay, great. So, yes, Liv, I'm so glad. Um, we have to start getting to a place where we do it our way. And the goddess way is when you're inspired, you let it out. Like I decided to do this live session exactly about 30 minutes ago. And I'm just like, "Look, yo," I would get on the Zoom with my friends who live all over the world and start and tell them, share my stories, share my insights, talk them through the revolution that I feel like is trying to happen. I would do that with them with no notice. So I'm gonna do that with you guys with no notice. And I think what's gonna come out and come through and be transmitted through me and you and all of us is actually what has been absent from the world, and I'm not here to play no more. So, let's do it. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. This is awesome. It is. It's such a vibe. Now I'm gonna go get London. I'm gonna go get London, and I don't know, maybe I'll see you from the Ritz-Carlton Peñalonga Resort in Sintra sometime again very soon. Hey, Ashley. Lovely. I'm so glad you said hi before I sign off. Beautiful. It's wonderful to see you guys. Amazing. We'll do this much, much more. All right. Make sure you're subscribing to my Substack, by the way, if you haven't yet. I just added, some of my email list here, so we'll figure out how to, make sure everybody knows about it, but I'm here, and I'm not playing. All right. See you guys soon.